Any comments from any of the commissioners? Mr. White, Mr. Foster?
I wonder if we should go ahead and mention in there while we're making this motion about the handicap accessibility requirements that are required for curb cuts and ramps and those kind of things for our curbs and crosswalks.
Are those included, Mr. Spencer?
That comment's usually in there somewhere to meet city requirements and all ADA regulations. So it may not be under that one, but it's under the master street plan section.
Just want to keep us out of trouble.
Okay, Mr. White wanted to make this motion, if I understand it right. You see the painted crosswalks on our streets. Some developers are not painting those as they develop the subdivision and develop the properties, and we would require them to address that before final plat approval. Is that right, Mr. Spencer? Okay, all right, on the motion, any other comments? Please call the roll.
Alexander?
Here.
Yes or no?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry.
Chambers?
Yes.
Dietz?
Yes.
Foster? Harris?
I say yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Okay, if you'll work out the logistics of that, Mr. Spencer, and include that on all of our future correspondence.
No problem.
Mr. Chambers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Development Review Committee met and considered SD 2016-33 Northwood Creek Addition Lot 1R replat and site plan review of apartments located at the end of Northwood Creek Court. The applicant was present and agreed to items 1 through 10 through 11 and subsections, and I presume by our previous motion to add crosswalks under item 1A. And with that, the Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Motion made and seconded that this application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Item B, SD 2016-34, Balcom Industrial Lots 3 through 6, Phase 2, preliminary plat of industrial lots located at the end of Balcom Industrial Drive. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 9. Sean, would this include the crosswalks issue?
Would not. Sidewalks are not required in an industrial subdivision.
Okay, thank you. And developer was there present, agreed to items 1 through 9 and subsections, and with that, Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Motion made and seconded that it be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Item C is SD 2016-35 Lakewood Homes, lots 1 through 17, a preliminary plat of residential lots located at the northeast corner of Randolph and McCain. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 8 and subsections. If that's correct. 1 through 8 and subsections, and that would include the requirement for crosswalks under item 1A. And with that, the Development Review Committee recommend approval.
Motion made and seconded that it be approved as submitted. Any comments from anyone in the audience on this application? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the microphone and give us your name, please.
My name is Farrah Faubus. I'm the property owner at 2104 Lansing Road. I am in the house that abuts the wooded lot that these 17 townhomes or 17 patio homes would be built on. I had submitted some pictures, and I've got some extra ones I'd like to submit to the Planning Commission. I took them to the city engineer. I've got 3 real concerns about the proposed development there that we would like some answers on. Several of my neighbors are here as well. That wooded lot serves as a buffer to the commercial businesses that are on the rest of that, block. There's the One Bank building on the corner. There's the Lakewood House, tall apartment building. There's a fire station, and then there's a nursing home. And so there are three, in my opinion, significant issues with taking out that green belt. Number one, there is a large commercial air conditioning unit, very loud. We've got videos of it and pictures of it on a disc I want to leave for you. The way that that is laid out, there would, lots 1 through 4 would abut that commercial air conditioning unit. It is very loud. And right now, that wooded lot serves as the buffer to that noise to the rest of the neighborhood. Very concerned that when those woods come down, first of all, that the houses that back up to that are going to be of much lower value, which will decrease my property value as soon as the first one sells. Second of all, I just don't see how in good city planning you put houses that abut that loud commercial air conditioning unit. The second issue that I have is from the nursing home. There's a parking lot that runs around the back of it with very bright lights. You hear the employees out there at night, and there are going to be lots 6, 7, and 8 that abut into that nursing home. Very bright lights at night. They'd empty the dumpsters at 3 a.m. My house backs up to it. It is intrusive in the winter when the leaves are off the trees. It's going to be even worse when all the trees are gone. And the third and most significant issue from my view is that there is a lot of water that flows through the middle of that. And I've got videos of that as well. I mean, it is a stream. Right now, even with it going through the summer, there has always been standing water there. The water runs off from the nursing home. You can see where they put their big pipes to run it off the hill. Their new parking lot is already flaking off because it's a steep abutment coming off of that. They've piled a bunch of rocks and put a fence to try to keep it from coming off. They just put that new parking lot in a year ago, and it's already falling down that hill. And if you look, there are the big drainage that come out of the back of the back of the Lakewood House. There's also a drainage that flows around and underneath the big bank building. So there is a lot of water that flows through there. Those that are familiar with Lakewood, if you look at the way the houses back up to each other, almost all of the Lakewood blocks have that big concrete drainage ravine that runs down behind it. This block's going to need, at a minimum, one of those. And that means you don't put 17 homes in that space. I understand that it's zoned single-family residential. I understand that people want to develop it. But 17 homes is going to result in a lowering of property values. It's going to result in a drainage problem. It's going to result in homes that are going to be difficult to sell just because of the encroachment to the commercial businesses. And it's going to hurt all of us in Lakewood.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Faubus. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Cindy Johnson, and I live across the street from Farrah Faubus at 2109 Lansing Road. I will be looking directly at those houses, and I really have to say I've enjoyed seeing the woods, the wildlife, and the people walking through there. The only thing is, I wish Lakewood was Lakewood as when we grew up there. I'm 59 years old, and I've been there since I was 2. So there's been a lot of changes, and it hasn't been for the good. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Books A Million is leaving Lakewood Village. I know that there are several restaurants that are for sale in the area, and I know that these houses that you're going to put in 17 houses is not going to help our neighborhood develop and thrive. I think we need to have the code enforcement to go through this area again, and these houses that are falling down around us need to be cleaned up and reworked so we can keep Lakewood as it is. I had someone come in and value our property. My father lives there. He's 89 years old, and I think he deserves better. And they've already devalued my house $30,000. So I want to know what is going to happen here. Because at 89, and I want to have my father move, and he's put his whole life there and tried to make it a place for us to be and raise our kids and have our grandkids come, and now everything's being devalued. We can go up and down Lakewood as it is, and we can see these houses, trees going up through front porches, people's front houses are falling down. And I'm just saying, if you can pay these taxes that you guys are asking for every time we turn around, we should be able to go up and down our neighborhood and see these houses shine and be proud of where we're at and what we're doing. And these 17 houses you're putting in is not going to save any of this. It might help you guys with your taxes and what you want, but it's going to devalue our neighborhood completely. And our kids are not going to want to be here. They won't stay here. They won't go to school here. And I think it's a shame that this is not planned out or thought out even more. I'm sorry, but I just feel like, I don't know if you guys know about the Zika virus, where I just read what the redbirds are the ones that are killing and saving people from the Zika virus. I can tell you now, there are 2 hawks' nest over there. We have 4 hawks there. I know it doesn't mean anything to you guys. I do know there's 25 nest of redbirds that will help eat the mosquitoes to keep from having Zika virus. I do know that we have deer. I do know that people really enjoy walking by there and seeing what we have to offer. This is our last greenery, besides everyone wanting to save Lake Number 3, the old mill, and all this, which is fine, but there are other people in Lakewood besides standing there looking at Lake Number 1 and Lake Number 2 and Lake Number 3. And I think we deserve that buffer, because if my dad hadn't invested $10,000 in windows, we wouldn't be able to sleep at night, because all we hear is woom, 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 woom all the time until you come in our house. Then you can't hear it. And it's a shame that he's had to spend his hard-earned money to keep that noise out of his house. And I think you guys ought to be ashamed of yourself and go back around this neighborhood and clean it up.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Someone else?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Betty Findley. I live at 4900 Randolph Road in Lakewood. My house faces Randolph. My driveway faces the side street, which is Lansing. I look across the street at the woods. I watched Lakewood House being built out my kitchen window. I've been in my house 53 years. I built it. I bought the lot, the most expensive lot on Randolph. I would never have done that had I have known that green buffer was not going to be left. We were told it was. And then when they put this huge air conditioning fan, whatever it is, that cools Lakewood House there, I knew why the green buffer was there. I cannot sit on my patio in the summer. It is not peaceful. And no one else in the neighborhood can. We all hear it. Now, you can complain about it all you want to. Nothing has ever been done to fix it. So I've put up with this all these years, since Lakewood House was built, rented, and the air conditioner started. We were told the green belt was always going to be there. And we said, yay, it's a buffer. We get to have the woods, the animals, we get to have a park-like atmosphere. There used to be a putting green up on the Lakewood property. There were picnic tables and benches. It was a park. And now, all of a sudden, we are told they're going to build 17 patio homes. And my daughter and I added up the space that each house would take on less than 5 acres. It has a drainage problem, has a noise problem. It's going to take in our wildlife that's over there. It's going to kill the green buffer that separates us from the businesses that are over there that we were never told would be there. I have a copy of this that we got from the Planning Commission. I don't know if you all have seen it. Here it is.
Yes, ma'am, we've seen it. It's
You've
okay.
seen it.
Yes, ma'am.
That ingress and egress is going to be a half a block from my driveway. It's going to ruin my property value. Why would you want this in your neighborhood? I don't understand why this is being done. Our property values are at stake here. You should know that better than any of us. I don't know how many of you live in Lakewood, but help us. We can't stop it by ourselves. And I don't know what else to tell you. We're here begging for you all to help us stop this building that's going to go on. 17 patio homes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Finley. Mr. White?
Hang on one second. I want everybody to hear this real quick. Sean, what is that zone?
Property zone R4, and which would allow apartments, but it also allows single-family in there also.
Okay, say it one more time.
Property is zoned is zoned R4 for apartments, but it also allows single-family. And then I just want to correct everything. The property is zoned for single-family houses. There's nothing in there that says patio homes. So the original drawings some of you had been looking at was an earlier version. So the property is zoned for homes. So if someone wants to build a 3-story home, they can build a 3-story home. If someone wants to build a patio home, just like anywhere else in the city, they're allowed to do that.
Okay.
So it is not a patio home neighborhood. It is a regular neighborhood, just as Park Hill and Lakewood.
All right,
Any
let me-
type of house can be built.
Okay. And it's been R4 single home since you were born?
Probably. I could research, but a long time.
Here's the reason I'm bringing this up. You've lived in Lakewood 50 years. I've been here 62 years, except for 3 years in Overbrook, and I hated it. No offense to people in Overbrook. I can see Lakewood, but I need to be in Lakewood. I remember when they built apartments on North Hills, and I thought, oh my gosh, I do not want that built on that land where you are. Now, would I rather have homes? Because whoever owns this land, they have the right to do this. We can't stop them. We're not rezoning anything. All we're doing is putting requirements on it, like the sidewalks and stuff. So that's not really coming in front of us on whether we can stop this. You know, the only people that can stop this, you hire an attorney, and then you're not going to win most likely. So as far as me being a resident of Lakewood, I'd much rather have 17 homes there versus 200 apartments or 100 apartments like we already have on North Hills and McCain, which y'all know what they look like. And we know every 3 or 4 years somebody buys them and then they paint it that gray color again and then they look like they're going to burn down. That's one thing that we do not want, in my opinion. But as far as the Planning Commission, as far as what we're doing, all we're voting on today is the requirements. We're not voting on whether they can do this or not. We don't have any control on that. I wish we did have control on it, because I grew up and it really wasn't putting green. It was, I believe, a 9-hole par 3 pitch and wedge putter type course, because I played there growing up with Elwood Deer, who built a lot of the houses in Lakewood. So basically, I think what the input needs to be is, I don't think we can stop this, even if I wanted to or y'all wanted to. But what we can do is have input on what it does. Now, as far as input on the noise, on the air conditioner, you know, to me, that's a code enforcement issue. Has code enforcement been called on that? That air conditioner has not been there as long as y'all think it's been there. Because I used to lease in the Crestwood or the One Bank building, so I know the noise of it, and I agree with you, it's loud. But again, we just need more control over this area so that we don't have 50 apartments, because that's what we're going to end up with. I promise you. If we don't let them build these houses, we're going to have apartments, and y'all know what those apartments are like on North Hills and McCain and Fairway. As far as our property values in the city of North Little Rock and in Lakewood, and I agree, but again, when I drive down Randolph, the house on Randolph and McCain, code enforcement needs to be there tomorrow morning. I hope it's not one of your houses, but it should be there tomorrow morning. It's got, you know, it's horrible. So we do need more help from code enforcement in Lakewood. And I apologize, but I do live on one of the lakes, and I do have a view. So I can, I agree with your looking at the trees, because I'm a tree guy too and a lake guy. And I also know that's gonna put extra pressure on my lake, because all that water that y'all are talking about is gonna go into Lake Number 2. I know exactly where it's gonna go. And if they don't put the concrete thing right, we're gonna have more cups in that lake than we've ever had before. So we got to be able to figure out with our engineers, our city engineers, and with the staff that we have here on how we can control these things, so that if that driveway is coming out in front of your house, and it would be better that it came out in front of her house, that or somewhere else, that we need to figure those things out. But as far as stopping this, I would love that to stay a green belt. But as a planning commission, it's not going to happen. I've tried to stop too many of these things before, and I always get that look from some other people that say, it's already zoned for that. You can't stop it. So I agree, I'd love it, but it's not gonna happen.
I'm just tired of us paying taxes and we don't get done what we
Okay.
Well, but, and I'll finish.
Go ahead.
That's something you need to take up with your alderman and code enforcement. If y'all have to call code enforcement every single, well, you're not allowed to talk back to me, but call code enforcement every day. Code enforcement will tell them, I call them once a week, or more. So, and I agree, but I want y'all to know that we're not voting on redoing the zoning there. We're trying to prevent some things from going wrong there, is what we're trying to do more than anything. But our hands are tied up here because, just like Sean said, before he was born, it's been rezoned this. I have the original Lakewood deal. It's never been a green belt. Even though we were told in certain areas we're gonna have agreement, it's not a green belt. You have your green belt, and it's at Lake Number 3 is where your green belt is. That's the only thing. And we had to buy that from Mr. Matthews, if y'all remember, and we didn't really buy it. He traded for some land. So technically, he took care of us there, or he could have turned that into houses if he had liked to. So anyway, I'm through with my sermon.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, even this particular application is not asking for any variances whatsoever. They're in full compliance with our controlled development ordinance. And it is established state law that if an applicant is in full compliance and no waivers are asked for or anything, you shall approve it. So it's not a matter of us stopping something. If we stopped it, we'd be taken to court and we would lose, because it's established state law that if they comply with our ordinance, we shall approve it. And what we're voting on is a plat to create a subdivision. We're not actually voting on the land use or anything else. And I'm in complete sympathy with you, just that it's one of those hands are tied kind of moments.
Okay, along with that, okay, go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Give us your name, please.
Hi there, my name is Deborah Finley Stewart. I'm actually Betty's daughter. I grew up in Lakewood. Hi, how are you? I don't live in North Little Rock anymore. I live in Austin, Texas, where there are, I have to say, in a more progressive environment, there is sort of a vision for development. There are limitations that occur even with rules in place. When you go back and you look at the original intent of that green space, there is no doubt it was meant as a noise abatement for the Lakewood House. It was left there as long as it has been because it was necessary. That mechanical device that sits on the edge of the property was put where it was because no one would have wanted to see it driving down McCain. No one would have wanted to see it sitting by the swimming pool at Lakewood House and hear it. You would have not been able to do so. No one wanted to see it on North Hills. So they put it where they did on the edge of the property, facing a residential area. And I might add that the historic fabric of the neighborhood of Lakewood, the historic fabric is a single-family residential area with houses that sit along streets that are passable. Now, there are cul-de-sacs, I realize that, but there's the historic fabric of the neighborhood is thus. So you look at taking 4.85 acres, putting 17 homes on that land, You have impervious cover issues, which address the fact that you have all this runoff going into your lakes that will be created from no absorption left. I mean, in the ground, you have no ground left there. It is built zero lot line, it looks to me. There is no, on your plat there is no indicated access for the homes that face Randolph. Not sure how they, come in and out. Do you have adequate fire and police ingress and egress? How will it affect your fire station on McCain? I think these are all questions everybody needs to step back and look at. You've already allowed a commercial corridor to appear in the neighborhood, which is a residential neighborhood. No matter what you say it was zoned for, you can't tell me when it was rezoned and how it was originally zoned. And until you can do that, I think you need to step back, slow down, and allow these questions to be answered. I think there are some people at the Property Owners Association looking at the issue of the original intent of the Greenbelt. There may be some historic precedent for that remaining as a Greenbelt. And so I think allowing anything to be voted on at this point is a mistake. It's a mistake for these people. It's also a mistake for people on South Randolph, on McCain. The traffic there, I came through there today. It's just unbelievable how much the area has changed since I was a child living there. I grew up across the street. I am very familiar with the mechanical device. It sits on the edge of the property. I heard it my entire childhood. It's loud. If you haven't had the opportunity to go there and experience it for yourself, I suggest before you vote on anything that you do that. I suggest you imagine that your house directly backs up to that. Imagine that. Maybe pitch a tent, spend the night there, see what that experience is like. No one will buy a house that backs up to that. No one will. No one will buy a garden home. No one will buy a single-family residence. No one would want to live in an apartment unless they had no other choice that backs up to that air conditioning unit. I promise you. And I thank you for your time. I thank you for your consideration. I think careful thought is really in order here. I think you can slow this process down. I think it should be slowed down, and I thank you again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Okay, as it's been stated by two of our commissioners, we don't have a choice on voting on this today. The choice that we have is to put it before the various boards and the various regulatory agencies in our city that will make sure that all the plans are adhered to and they're all adhered to safely. That's the only option that we have. As Mr. White has stated, your other option is through the court system, civil system. But for our purposes here today, we can't do anything else but vote yes for this application. Did you have a...
Yeah,
Mr. Foster?
I'd like to just elaborate on that a little bit, because maybe we're not getting through to this issue. But like our chairman and other members have said, matter of fact, the fellows that have been speaking sat on the Development Review Committee, and that's a committee that made this recommendation to this full commission. Before that was submitted to our development committee, these drawings and specifications and plats were all submitted to all the departments in the city: the fire department, the police department, wastewater, the Central Arkansas Transit, city engineer. They all reviewed it. In addition to that, those drawings and specs for this development were done by a very reputable engineering company who's done a lot of work in Lakewood, all over the city of North Little Rock, and has a good reputation. And as far as I know, it has not gone wrong with us yet. You know, I have no doubt that the drainage situation has been taken care of in the engineering situation. It has met all the requirements. Again, if they meet those requirements, if that submission that was made to us meets those requirements, we have no other recourse than to approve it, or then the law comes after us, okay? I wish there was something we could do. For us to put this on hold, we don't have that authority, really. For us, to go back and look at the rezoning, that's been done. So we have no choice than to move this thing forward. It's already rezoned correctly.
It was rezoned, when did that?
It never was rezoned. It was always zoned R4.
Are you sure, absolutely?
Ask,
Like I said, it's been there that way for a long time.
How long? Who's got it?
I will research it and
Please,
yeah, I'm sorry.
ma'am.
but I mean, that doesn't come before this board. It was already zoned correctly, and all we have, it's our duty to move this thing is an affirmative vote.
One last question, please.
So how do we find out how they do?
Come up to the microphone, give us your name again, please.
Farrah Fabus. How do we find out how they're going to deal with the noise issues and the light issues and the drainage issue? I understand that you all have pushed that out to the various departments, but, as a neighborhood, how do we get assurance that those concerns are going to be addressed? Who tells us
You
that?
would probably need to get someone that would know exactly what they're looking at, and they can go to those departments and look at the detailed plans that they have. You, as a layperson, may not know that, but you could go and look at it, and you might not know what you're looking at. But someone that does know, hired someone that does know, they can go and look at that and figure that out and bring you a report. I mean, that's all we can do. That's what our various city departments are for.
No, I understand that. And I went to the city engineer and I asked about the drainage
Yeah.
because it is bad. And they said that they hadn't seen any plans on it yet. They hadn't had a chance to delve into it.
Well,
So-
no, ma'am, I'd have to disagree with you on that, because here's Mr. Chris Thayer. He is our city engineer, and I know that he saw the plans, but he hasn't saw these detailed engineered plans that he would have to fully approve for this subdivision could be implemented. Now, he saw what you saw so far, but the engineer will submit to him the detailed engineered plans that he will have to approve according to regulations. So,
And then does it come back before this board, or is this the only time it makes it
the
to
only
this board?
time it will be here. All we're doing is moving the plat forward to the next step in the development.
No, I understand that, and I appreciate your time tonight.
You know,
This is
it's-
obviously
Ms.
very
Fox.
emotional for all of us.
Yes, Mr. White?
As far as the drainage with Chris, I am going to be involved in that a little bit, not as a resident, not as a planning commissioner, just because I know where all that water is going to go. And it's going to go into Lake Number 2 is where it's going to go. So not that I'm an engineer by any means, but I also trust him a lot that water will be directed. And at the same time, it won't be like we let those apartments do, fill a rock bed up, let everybody throw the trash in it and go down. It will need to be concrete is what it will need to be so that it gets into the right, system to go into that lake so it comes into the right place. So as a resident of North Rock, I'm going to be involved in that part for sure. I'm Lakewood. I mean, I've only lived out of it 3 years. And my wife told me when I lived in Overbrook, you can see Lakewood. And I told her, but it wasn't Lakewood. So it's important to me that I protect it. And the young lady that said, right, you're right. Some of these houses, they don't have any pride for their neighbor. They don't care about their neighbor anymore. So I think our job is to spread this, including your neighbor on the corner of McCain and Randolph, or the two RVs down the street on the middle part around, to tell them to clean it up. Because it's not fair to you and I. It's not fair to the man that's lived here longer than I have on his property values. But I think we can all do this together. But this is a start. They're going to have street lights. Are the lights going to point down? Is it not going to bother us? I think the answer is this will be a good development. It won't be like the apartments because I just feel like I'm going to be more involved in this one. So anyway, that's just my comment. So anyway, I'll be quiet now.
I don't know. Okay, yes, ma'am. One last speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is, excuse me, Laverne, and I reside in Lot 11 at 4808 Randolph Road. So I just wanted to ask the question, is Lot 11 included? in the planning?
Mr. Spencer?
These will all be brand-new subdivision houses, so if you've got a house already built, this does not include you.
So lot 11, because lot 11, the same people who own that house own the woods, that land.
These are all will be brand-new lots, so if you've got a lot right now with a house on it, does not include it.
Okay. But that's, okay. What
Okay.
what I'm asking is, I reside in the 4808 Randolph, so the Matthews own that house, to my understanding. So I just reside there. I've been there a year. So my question, I just want to get an understanding that when the Woods leave, is the house being torn down also?
No, that house will stay. They may tear it down, but it will not be torn down in conjunction with this subdivision,
Okay.
okay?
So it won't be torn down in conjunction with that? Okay. I just wanted to get an understanding because I mentioned to the property manager, and she said that she didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So that's why I
Okay.
wanted to be here today to voice my opinion.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Law.
Thank you.
May I add something to that, please?
Yes, ma'am.
The house that she lives in faces Randolph. It belongs to Matthews. When they bought it, I have no idea, because when I lived there, it was individually owned. She is asking you, is that house going to be torn down? And you all are saying it doesn't affect that house, but if you look on their plat here, it says one driveway will come out on Randolph, and it has to be that house she's talking about. So the
Then-
driveway, the house faces Randolph, the driveway will come out on Randolph. The rest of the houses will come out in the green belt in there some way. So that's what she's asking you. She's gonna have to move, probably.
Then, ma'am, we don't know that.
yeah,
We
I'm
don't
just-
know that here. We can't answer that question for you here.
It
All-
says that in here.
Excuse me, this is being recorded, and no one can hear you, so you need to come up to the microphone to,
I was just trying to tell you what she was asking.
but again, well, this is out on TV, and no one,
Do you want me to come
if
up
you're
and-
wanting to talk, we need to,
I'm Betty Findley. I live at 4900 Randolph. This lady lives 2 houses from me. And what she is asking you is her house going to be torn down that she is renting? Obviously, the Matthews owns it. When they bought it, I have no idea because I knew the original owners. And I have no idea when it was purchased and who it was purchased from. Then it was being rented. Those people moved across the street. All of a sudden, we see a sign outside that contact the Matthews Company for rent. This lady rented the house, and she is asking you, is her house going to be torn down? The answer is either that or remodeled, because her driveway has to come out on Randolph. And the information we got in our packet says that there is one driveway on Randolph. The rest are going to be in the woods, and that's what she was asking you. Is she going to have to move? Are they going to tear her house down?
Ms. Faubus, I'm going to answer you
I'm
just like...
not Miss Faubus. I'm Betty Findley.
I'm sorry. I'll answer you just like I answer her. We don't know that.
Well,
We cannot tell you that.
let me just tell you again. We have no objection to single-family residences built like originally. All those lots from the corner of Randolph and McCain had a for sale sign on them. They were all supposed to be single-family houses like we purchased. Everybody in Lakewood purchased. All of a sudden, the Matthews were thinking all these years. They never put those houses back for sale. And then a month and a half ago, it was going to be a commercial strip shopping center, which they were going to, obviously, what you all say, rezone. It's their right to do that. Our houses, our property values, everything's affected by this. I just spent $35,000 on my house. In my yard, I'm losing it. It's all outside. All my property value is going to be devaluated. We don't object to single-family houses. The
Ms.
house,
Bennett, this
the
is
house that-
exactly what they are proposing, single-family house.
That's not
I'm sorry,
what we-
ma'am.
that's not-
We are over the limit
But
on discussion on
I
this,
understand,
please.
but I need to speak because I'm not going to get another chance. These houses are not single-family like we think of single-family. And the reason Farrah Fawkes' house exists because Arthur Thomas, who did most of the surveying for Lakewood, asked the Matthews to sell him that property. I watched him build the house across the street.
Ms. Dennett,
And
listen, you're
that-
getting into more history than we need
Well,
here.
you need this history.
No,
If you're
ma'am,
gonna-
I'm sorry,
if you're
but we
gonna-
do not.
If you're going to
Please.
understand about our
Step
property
down,
values, you need to know.
No,
And it's,
ma'am.
whether I sit down or not and go away silently is not going to make any difference here.
Yes,
We're
ma'am, you're
asking
right.
we're asking you to help us. Everybody, help us.
And we are trying to explain to you that our hands are tied. We cannot.
Someone suggested yesterday to us that we go to the Matthews, buy the green space, form a Lakewood Property Owners Association green space with that, and then we can hold on to it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you
That's
know the
correct.
Matthews will not sell that green space to us when they can afford to build
Hey,
seven.
ma'am, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Well, I
Thank
just
you.
wanted you to know, you would be up here fighting too if this was your property.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments from the commissioners? Chris, do you want, Mr. Thayer, do you want?
I'd
Like
like to
Mr.
say,
Wilburn?
I'd like to say one thing. I have visited with Ms. Fawkes, and at the stage, what y'all are looking at is a plat. Okay, it's, as you've explained, it's not final design in any stretch of the imagination. Our requirements, one of our conditions, I just want everybody to understand, our conditions on a subdivision like this is we are requiring detention. Okay, now what that means in simple language is no more water will come off this property than before it was developed. That is a requirement that the good engineer who's working on this project will be required to meet. And I will pay special attention. And so I'm going to say it one more time. No more water will come off this property than comes off of it currently. That is our city requirements for doing a subdivision like this. So we will be providing some on-site detention. Now, that may adjust their design based upon what the engineer looks at. The other thing I would say, this is a challenging topography, very challenging topography. I've been looking at it. There is some chance that actually will help the drainage somewhat based upon the development, and flattening things out, and storing water that's coming off this side. So I just wanted to make
Thank you,
sure.
Mr. Wilburn.
May I ask you a question
Sure,
from an engineer point of view?
absolutely.
What about the sound? Has anybody ever requested a sound test over there, some study of some kind?
No, as far as sound abatement,
Does- do you
nobody,
know-
nobody's requested that, but you did, one of your other topics, we will look at egress and in and out.
But somebody should look at the sound situation. Somebody should before houses are built there that people are going to live in. From a human point of view, it is impossible to live with that.
Well, once again, no one can hear you on the TV, so if we either need to be addressed, but the chairman needs to address, so we need to stop.
Well, I'm just wondering, you know, on what the conditions to get a sound study of the site would be. How far the planning commission would be involved in that, or the city of North Little Rock in general for development purposes, so that the sound situation can be studied, like, so you'll know whether or not it is feasible from a human
That
point of
would be
view,
an
a
issue
human
for
point
the
of view
code
to live with
department.
that sound behind you.
that would be an issue for the code department to determine.
I think somebody should be addressing that.
Okay,
I think
thank you,
that
ma'am.
is, okay, I think that's something important.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. White,
I'd like to make an amendment to this,
okay?
because some of the concerns of the people of Lakewood are on the runoff. I would like to remove the pay the drainage in lieu of $500 an acre for residential development, that it should read that it should provide on-site detention based on the city engineer's requirements.
It says that there, but it gives some of the lots will have on-site detention and some will pay the lieu. So it's based on what the city engineer recommends. If you look at number 2B, that's what it says.
Yeah, the way that works is, I have the in lieu fee is based upon approval of the city engineer.
Okay.
And on this particular development, I'm not approving any in lieu fee. The engineer will be required to provide full detention.
Okay,
on the development.
I'm good with that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
I know I did.
Yeah. You okay with that?
I'm good with that.
All right, on the application, please call the roll. Well, I know it, but I would like to have it on the plat, on the application that we're voting on. Let's get it on record, please.
Alexander? Yes. Chambers?
You have no choice, yes.
Dietz? Yes. Foster?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Phillips? Yes. White?
Yes.
Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, folks. I understand your concerns, but we do what we are charged to do here on this commission, and this was one of our charges today. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. If you'd like to be excused, you can be.
Could I approach Mr. White and give him some?
Yes, ma'am.
Thought you were bringing me a knife. I'm just kidding, you got that. Now, if I knew how to do this, I'd even do better.
Mr. Chambers,
Okay, thank you.
item D.
I'm waiting for them to clear. Item D, SD 2016-36, North Shore Business Park, Lot 5, Block 8, replat and site plan review, an office building located at 4850 North Shore Lane. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 9 in subsections, and with that, the Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Second? Motion made and seconded to be approved as submitted. Anyone in the audience would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Item E, SD 2016-37, Spring Hill Development, Lot 7R, Block 4, replat of 2 lots into 1 lot located near the southwest corner of Stockton and Smoky Lane. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 8 in subsections, and with that, the Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Motion made and seconded that the application be approved as submitted. Any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Item F, SD 2016-38, Spring Hill Development, Lot 7R, Block 4, site plan review of a clinic located near the southwest corner of Stockton and Smoky Lane. The applicant was present and agreed to items 1 through 9 and subsections, and with that, Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Motion seconded and motion made and seconded that this be approved as submitted. Any comments from anyone in the audience? Any comments from any of the commissioners? Mr. White?
I do have a comment. On number 4, and Sean, you may answer this and remind me why, it says provide 5-foot sidewalks and ramps with a minimum of 5-foot green space between sidewalks and curb. This is something I've been driving around the city. Nobody knows who's supposed to mow that grass. Is there a reason we put that in there so nobody mows it? Or is the city responsible? Is the owner of the property responsible? Who mows that grass?
It's just part of our master street plan, but the owner is responsible, the person that owns the property in front of it is supposed to mow it.
You answered my question. Thank you very much. I don't have a problem with it. I just needed that answer.
Mr. Chambers?
Factually, the right-of-way is your granting of an easement across your property to the public to drive a car. You factually own to the center line of the road, and that grass is your property.
It's like in a river. Yeah. I was just curious, so now I know the rule because nobody mows their grass anymore.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chambers. Item G,
I don't think we voted on that one. No, we didn't vote on item.
Okay.
Item 8.
Sorry about that.
FF.
on item F,
You didn't ask for approval.
motion been made and seconded that be approved as submitted. Any comments made to the anyone in the audience? Comments made to the commissioners? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Item G has been postponed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Next order of business is our public hearing. Special use case number 2016-10 to allow daycare in an R4 zone located at 1700 North Locust in North Little Rock. Is the applicant here? Please come up. Give us your name, please.
LaAngela Medley.
Okay, you've made an application. You have been before the Design Review Committee. Did you agree with all of the conditions that?
I did, yes.
Based on it? Any comments from anybody on this, Sean?
Sorry, no, we haven't received any phone calls.
And this property was previously a daycare?
It's been daycare for 20-some years.
Yes.
Any comments from anyone in the audience? Comments from any of the commissioners? On the application, please call the roll.
Alexander,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dietz, Foster,
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Phillips. White.
Yes.
Chairman Clifton.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Medley, your application did pass. You see Mr. Spencer, and he can tell you what steps to take.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Public comment section. We have previously voted on a motion to include painting of crosswalks. To enforce that, it is already in our subdivision regulations, but we will proceed to put verbiage in our comment section to include that for all future subdivisions. Right? As of today. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, I want Sean and Chris to particularly look at how that regulation, the painting of crosswalks, applies to developments that do not own both sides of the intersection. For example, the apartments we were postponed today, they don't own one side of Maple and 4th Street. So do they paint their crosswalks halfway across 4th and halfway across Magnolia and 4th? Do they just paint them halfway across because of half-street improvement rule and all that? Does the city paint them the rest of the way? Just how do y'all coordinate that? I just want something to come up, want it resolved so that there's no question how that's figured out. Also, the Planning Commission training sessions are very helpful. The whole issue today was Richardson versus the city of Little Rock back in 1976, and Richardson complied in every way with the city of Little Rock's requirements for a subdivision. It was a heinous subdivision. It was a terrible subdivision. You couldn't access the lots. It was very steep land. It didn't matter. The city had a set of regulations. He complied with every one and asked for no waivers. It went all the way to Supreme Court, and they said, that's it. If he complies, you shall approve. There is no negotiation. And our attorney's agreeing with me that is what the law is, you know. So when you go to the training, you learn these little tiny factoids. Anyway.
I just want to point, you don't have to vote yes. You guys are free. If you were wanting to vote no on it, you're welcome to vote on. Well, there'll be some recourse later if everybody votes no, but you don't have to vote yes on it.
So what would have happened if we'd voted no? If we'd voted no, what would have happened?
We lost in court sometime in the future.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of a cell tower once.
Right. Yes. But just to make clear, you don't want to tell those folks you have to vote yes. I mean, you're welcome to vote no if you want to. Now, it wouldn't be a smart
That's-
vote.
We're charged to try to enforce the
Correct.
regulations.
You're correct.
So, you know, if we're charged with doing that,
Yes, true.
And this was your out?
Yeah.
This is the out.
Do what? And see, they did want to put a commercial deal, so they forgot that we, in a way, stopped that.
My only question was, how did the rumor that was going to always be green space? That comes up, I hear that.
every time.
Me. I want to answer it.
Just so you know, I will pull it out tonight, because I have the rollover deal that Lakewood has. That's the whole area.
I mean, that's the kind of the settlement of that whole issue. I can understand when you may have bought it and somebody said that was green space, but if nobody's
It was never
ever.
going to be a green space. I hate to tell them that.
Okay.
I mean, it was originally put there
That-
so that
that
people
was
would
my
rent
only
an
question.
apartment from the Lakewood house, and so that was like a swimming pool. They had a golf course.
Okay.
It was one of those. It was never intended.
And we have always been a very weak on enforcement city, okay? And when it comes to sound intrusion, because that was her question about sound, who governs intrusion of sound? Currently, it's intruding on a bunch of trees. So no, the trees don't complain, but when people get there, it will be intruding on the residents if they can sell the property, okay?
I'm
So-
sensing a sound wall or something is, or.
But
if
my
it's
point is that we
bad, I don't know.
can't, they'll build a buffer because they're required to build a buffer between their use and the, but the point is.
Leland Cypress. They love-
But the point is that we don't, this is coming in, and there are light intrusion issues on this property, it's woods, no one cares. Sound intrusion issues, it's woods, no one cares. But once it changes over and people are there, do we have a responsibility to mitigate the intrusion for the future use? And we don't have those, there's nothing in our ordinance that would let us, let us leverage that in any way.
But the sound
Okay.
intrusion is at the Lakewood house. That's what they're talking about. And
Yes.
that unit that unit was put there sometime, probably 20 years ago when I first moved in the new building, the Crestwood. That's when that was moved from right beside the Lakewood house
Yeah.
to out there.
Yeah.
And it is loud. And probably what should have happened is somebody should have been required to put something around it.
Yeah.
But again, would that eliminate the noise? The answer is probably, if y'all remember when I did my building, y'all made me point the lights down and the air
Yeah, we
conditioner.
did, yeah.
You know, so we do that. But in this case, this was done after the fact. That didn't come in front of us.
No, it didn't.
That
So
was
that's-
before my time.
I don't know if, Sean, maybe you can answer the question, but as far as that sound issue, I drove around and have for years. Most of those trees in there are deciduous. In the wintertime, that does very little, if anything, to buffer sound from those. I mean, he even said
Yeah.
that. So that's not an issue, but as far as the sound, that's gone by there for so long, and the city's not done anything about it. Looks like to me their only recourse is take it to court.
Yeah,
Take
it is.
Matthews to court
And-
and get their own sound engineered or whatever, however. And I guess the only case they got is a public nuisance. What else could they claim in that situation?
And
Yeah,
I
it's,
did,
the noise was there first, so when these people buy these houses, it's buyer beware. They're going to be
Exactly.
aware of these lights coming into their back bedroom window. They're going to be aware of the noise happening because it was there first.
the engineer could not assure me that that the properties that are being replatted along Randolph do not affect that lady's house. He could not assure me, okay, that her house wasn't on one of the lots. And also well, never mind, go ahead. There was another thought, but it left me.
Okay, move forward.
On the thought of the half-street striping, do you think that you could give us some thoughts on that? That's a valid question. They have to do half-street improvements. So,
I mean, we can't require them to do painting on the other half of the street. Now.
But the city could do it.
The city could do it, or they may just do it because it would look
It
strange.
benefits them too.
Yeah, so, but our requirements are half-street improvements. If they don't own both halves, we can't do it the other half.
How about a policy that if you're there first, you get to paint the whole thing?
No. Again, it's still your half-street improvements.
No, if you're there first, you can do
Chris
the whole
say.
thing.
I'll look at it.
Okay.
You say,
Thank
Chris.
you, Ms. Miller. Mr. Foster?
Can we adjourn, sir?
Motion made and seconded. We adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.